Which players are we avoiding this season? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Wednesday, March 16th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And let's start with your number one bust this year, Scotty.
My number one bust is Ryan Mountcastle of the Baltimore Orioles, who I had already pegged as a bust even before they announced these drastic dimension changes to Camden Yards, where they pushed back the fence 30 feet in left field, pretty much all along straightaway left field. 30 feet, that's an enormous amount. And then they also raised the height from 7 feet to 12. So two big changes there. It makes, you do a park overlay of Camden Yards in every other major league park. It is the deepest left field now in all the major leagues. Ryan Mountcastle, a right-handed hitter, obviously. He hit 2/3 of his home runs at home last year. So, what kind of impact is that going to have? But I already expected him to decline in the home run category from 33 last year, even before those park changes. His X slug last year was 458 versus his actual 487 slug. So StatCast says he overachieved. I don't know that even 20 home runs is a safe bet from Mountcastle this year, much less 30. And the way he's being drafted like he's going to take a step forward from last year, not back. He doesn't do anything but hit home runs. At least he didn't last year, and his plate discipline doesn't suggest he can. And he's in an awful lineup, which will suppress his RBI and run totals. So it's basically 30 homers or bust from Mountcastle, and I think that means bust because I don't predict 30 for him, and I'd much rather have other first basemen who go behind him like Josh Bell, Rhys Hoskins, CJ Cron, Joey Votto. Give me any of those.
Yes.
Instead of Mountcastle.
Let's go with the profit pocket ahead of Ryan Mountcastle this season. Bust for me, Aroldis Chapman had a 3.36 ERA, his highest since 2011, and his 1.31 whip was a career high. His walks per 9, 6.1 last year, and he really struggled the final 4 months of the season after they cracked down on sticky substances. He had a 4.95 ERA, 1.62 whip, and the Yankees do have good relievers behind him in Jonathan Loaisiga and Chad Green. Closers are really tough. It's a fickle position, and I just don't want to start with one that already has a ton of risk. They all have risk, but I feel like there's even more with Aroldis Chapman, so I am out. Scott, another bust for you.
Randy Arozarena, who may have been the single biggest overachiever according to the StatCast data last year. And you look at the overall, the base numbers, the base numbers for Randy Arozarena: 274 batting average, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Okay, looks like a pretty good player. But you look underneath, his expected batting average was 222. His expected slug was 369. It looks like somebody, the sort of profile that everybody should flag as a bust. It almost seems too obvious, frankly. But because he got to 20 steals last year, I feel like people are elevating him and willing to turn a blind eye to those batted ball metrics. He was 20 for 30 in stolen bases last year, so it wasn't a great success rate, particularly on a team like the Rays. You wonder how much he's going to keep running. And if his hitting stats drop the way I think they could, you wonder how much he's going to keep playing for a team like the Rays, because they're so quick to rearrange their lineup as they see fit. So it just seems like a lot of different ways that this could spiral for Arozarena, and I want no part of him, particularly at his price.
All right, another bust for me, and I get the intrigue for Dalton Varsho, I really do, but I just cannot invest in him at the cost right now, which is, 118.2. I've seen him go much higher than that in drafts. And last year he got off to a rough start. He got sent back down to the minors. Once he returned, he did perform better, but during that stretch, the batted ball data was not good, just a 7% barrel rate. And he hits a lot of pop-ups, 15% infield fly ball rate, which Normally, I don't know how sticky that is year over year, but he did it a lot in his minor league career as well. I just don't know how good of an actual baseball player Daulton Varsho is, so I get the intrigue, but he still has some options left. I think if he struggles, there's a chance that he gets demoted once again. So the upside is high, but I think the floor is very low as well. Scott, give us your final bust here.
Jazz Chisholm got off to a hot start early on as a rookie last year, 311 batting average with a 969 OPS, 9 stolen bases in April. It was surprising because he looked pretty raw in the minors. The plate discipline numbers were awful, struck out way too much. I assumed he'd get eaten alive against major league pitching. After April, he pretty much got eaten alive by major league pitching. Hit only 236 with a 681 OPS over those final 5 months. And I do think there is a percentage chance those tools come together and he has this big breakthrough. But considering he's one of the top 100 players drafted, I think it's much more likely that he struggles to produce an even usable stat line. And there may be a chance he's dropped in your fantasy league by mid-May.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.